Hello, everybody. We are here. And look, I'm actually getting even better at this. I'm going to introduce you to my beautiful guest here in just one moment. But first, I wanted to share with you what we're doing this month here in May for Mastering the Drop. Of course, as always, we are going to be focusing on recovery and recovery journeys and what that looks like. But in this particular session, we're going to be focusing on having patience and purpose and persistence in this journey, and how we can really honor and give ourselves grace in that persistent pursuit, right? So,
Yes.
What we really want to be doing here is, creating that space that allows for all of the categories. And if you know me, that means I'm talking about at least the 8 primary categories that make up a true life balance, so that we can all flourish in our life, regardless of what our recovery needs are, whether that's a chemical substance, or if that's, our people-pleasing codependency, or anything in between, right? Because we need to learn how to be patient and give ourselves personal grace in any kind of life change. So today, let's look at some of our spiritual and emotional health needs, and really learn how to connect some of those dots with even our social and recreational needs in recovery. So everybody, this is Michelle Hollis, and I know she has, the wonderful quotations in the middle of her name, but I don't want to, brutalize it. But Michelle has a wonderful personal story from her own journey, as well as her own private practice. And y'all know me. Y'all know that I'm for collaboration over competition, and how I know that I don't speak everybody's language, and that, we all need to be seeking and searching for that guru, that guide, that coach, that influence in our life that speaks to us. Yes, Michelle, directly to our core, to our spirit, to our mind, to our soul, and to what we want our outcomes to look like. So, Michelle, everybody hears about my story, my journey, and that wonderful 30-year, love affair, but then also the head scratching. Well, how have you been in a recovery process for 25 years? That, the math doesn't add up for a lot of people, and I totally get it. But you said something to me in our talk last week that just really touched me, but I think so much better coming from you, about how much it meant to you when you found patience in your recovery journey.
Yes. Thank you so much for even having this conversation, for creating this space for people, because we need to talk more about this.
Yes.
We need to talk more about addiction, about codependency, about how disconnected that we can get in this life from who we actually are. That's where a lot of our discord comes from. I feel like, it comes from, you know what I'm saying? Just from forgetting just the bare basics of being a human being born into a vibrational universe that's biological, that has a sun that we're supposed to be getting nourished by, that, and,
outside, peeps.
Yes. Yeah. And it seems so obvious. It's almost deceptively simple, and that's where it really ties into your direct question, as far as having patience with yourself, because it's really kind of not our fault that we were born into the construct that we're born into. And by construct, I mean, our society is heavily capitalistic, heavy, especially America today. And don't get me wrong, this is not against America. I love America, grateful to be here. We're lucky to be able to be having this conversation, of being here in this country. However, our focus has shifted from being a whole person to being whatever the billboards are asking us to be.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so that's where we get to take the time that it takes to sit still and to unlearn a lot of the bad habits and thinking and mindset that we have accumulated over our lifespan. And right now it was ramping up, but nature took its course and just paused everything last year.
Well, it forced us to slow down,
Yeah.
right? And so, we've done, at least here in my work, we've done a lot of work on creating that place for resilience,
Mhm.
right? That ability to say right here, right now, in this moment, this is what I have. What do I want that to look, feel, and be like? Because I get to choose. I get to choose how I receive any kind of stimuli that comes in, right? And I
Yes.
refer to this in my practice as, hearing through the proper filter, seeing through the correct lens, right? Because we get to choose that also. We're in this instant gratification world, and we get these instant messages, whether it's social media or text messages, emails, whatever, right? Whatever it is. And
Whatever,
even our
whoever.
text messages are automated, right? They're not even actually typing them. They set them up as a drip feed. So, nothing's real organic anymore. We get these messages and we read it, right? We read it and we hear it. We use our own voice when we're transcribing
Yeah.
things.
Ooh, I didn't
We're,
even think of it
we're
like that.
we're using our own voice, so we get to put whatever voice we want to it. So if you read something that says, I can't believe you did that, like, how are you really hearing it? Like, do you hear it, I can't believe you did that? Or do you hear, wow, I can't believe you did that, that's rad? Like, how do
Right.
you get to choose how you read those words? And sometimes we have to say, how do I need to hear this in this time and space for my own emotional needs? And
Absolutely.
and the same goes for, and this is, the tale as old as time, right? Body image, body dysmorphia. What makes us, professional? Today I'm wearing a t-shirt and a sweater, man. I had a busy morning. T-shirt, sweater, jeans. I don't even have shoes on, right? But for me, that's all good. That doesn't take away from my professionalism.
No, it doesn't.
People would say, hey, look, Michelle's outdressing you, right? Like, and it's that
Yeah, it's
whole
not even like
comparison
that.
weird thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
no, I don't feel any less than equal. I'm sure you don't,
exactly.
but that's how our minds work. We go, and I'm sorry to, use you as an example, but we go
No, I understand. I understand. Hey,
that
we're here.
comparison.
We're here.
I have to go do recovery the way XYZ star did recovery,
Right.
but you
Right.
don't live their life.
Thank you.
When you come home, you're going home to your environment,
That's right.
right? Whether
That's
that's
important.
your home, your family, your kids, your spouse, your job, your bills, your whatever it is. Like, you don't have their life. So do you need
Exactly.
a private chef? Maybe not.
Exactly.
Maybe that private chef is just going to be like, like a nicety, sure. But, in their recovery, maybe they don't need to learn how to cook or make themselves healthy meals because they're never going to make themselves anything. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. No, I think that's so important because especially when you are, and it comes back to what you were saying about patience with yourself, that goes right hand in hand because it's like, okay, I may stumble a few times. I may backslide a few times before I get on the straight and narrow. They say in at least in like the 12-step programs that's usually a part of your recovery when you first get started. And so it's like to penalize yourself instead of continuing to push forward in the creative energy of who your best person is. That's a fallacy. So if you and I'll use you an example because we know we don't mean it. We understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
But if you and I start our journey at the same time, and like you said, you go home to an environment that's more conducive to your recovery, and someone else doesn't, and they have a slip up and fall, and they go backwards some, that doesn't mean that they are less strong. than
No.
the other person. It simply means that they get to be present and conscious that they can change their environment. But that's a process.
And for everybody, it's different. I have clients. I mean, we all have clients, right? That their definition of recovery looks different. Some
Mhm.
have to, baby step it backwards, right? And I don't know. I don't like this term, but California sober and all these different things. Like I don't like.
I've never heard that.
I don't even like to. Yeah, I don't even like to put coin phrases on it.
Yeah.
Just hey, you know what? I tried for 30 years to keep
Yeah.
alcohol in my life. And you know what? From 26 to 43, it wasn't a problem in my life
Yeah.
until 43 when it became a problem. And it was a problem because of a synergistic effect because of prescribed medication that was poorly monitored and the effects weren't well known by the provider, right?
Yeah.
Not to place blame, none of that. But you know
No.
what? At 43, I was like, okay, wait, this is a physiological addiction. Like my physical, I'm
Wow.
not attached to this at all. No
Okay.
physical body's attached. And so,
Wow.
boom, right? So, like I said, my recovery journey, 25 years. So my real super inappropriate use with alcohol ended between 25 and 26 somewhere, where I was using it to cope with traumatic events.
Right. Okay.
Those assaults, the violence, the abandonment issues, all of the
Yes.
things. Like, I've got a laundry list. But
I understand.
my form of recovery was, very controlled drinking, right? And that worked for me until it didn't.
Until
right?
it didn't. Until it didn't.
I've tried to keep it. It's not serving me anymore. I'm done. And so I went to treatment, and after a 30-day program, I was done, except for my learning process. So when somebody has that, what do you call it? A slip or a relapse or a backslide, or just a self-exploration of, hey, let me see if I can.
Just a situation. Yeah, let's not over dramatize it.
Yeah, it's just part of the learning experience. It's like, okay, that happened, but that was yesterday. We're in today. What are you going to do going forward? What do you want it to look like?
That's right. That's
like?
The powerful statement that you just made. Yeah.
We wallow, right? What is my word for the month? Languish, and choosing to flourish instead, right?
Yes.
Like, if we sit and we languish and we allow ourselves to be super flat, mundane, bored, weighed down, heavy, and we're going to fall prey to wallowing and ruminating. And it's just even my body language talking about it. Like I'm disappearing into the floor.
Somebody get her a V8. Remember that?
Well, when we think about, I want to flourish.
That's right.
Now we're catapulting. So back to, because you guys, you got to know, when Michelle and I get on a roll, we get on a roll. We really love to just converse. And I forgot y'all were here.
But it's true that everything you're saying is so true, because it's all about it's the energy, what we put into life, what we get out of life, and what we put back into it. It's all about the energy. So I love that you just really went into more detail about that, because it's so important how we approach things and how we find what energizes us. It, again, is going to be different for me than for you,
And that's why I wanted to talk with you about the spirituality piece of our life balance wheel and its importance in a recovery journey. And I want to be very, very specific. I want to be very honest here that this isn't about religion. It's not about, hey, we want to tell you need to go to church, or you need to believe in a higher power, or whatever. Spirituality is so unique and personal to each and every single one of us.
Absolutely.
So I know how I tap into mine, but I love how you speak about your connection with your spirituality and how that fuels your health, right? Mind, body, spirit, health. So
it does. Yeah, it does, because really it's a lot of everything that I'm learning, and I'm literally just learning. to be frank with everyone, I really cut the hard cord to my past, burned the bridge, not but a couple months before 2021. So this is
Good for you.
this was in October 2020. And that's when I just said, okay, this is not serving me anymore. Like you said, you know what I mean? And even in between then, I did, like you said, I had a couple of backslides in those moments too. And the reason I just call it a backslide is because it was a slip up. But what it taught me was I can't go forward with holding on to the past. I cannot go forward and create the highest version of myself, holding on to things that are not who I am anymore. Like it just does physiologically, it doesn't make sense. Emotionally, it doesn't make sense. Energetically, it doesn't make sense.
No.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
and the vibrancy that I can sit here today and have this conversation with you and be creating through meditation, through being clear about who I actually am in this world and learning more about who I am, learning more about who we are as humanity. You know, these are the things that get me excited about life. You know what I mean? I'm on Gaia watching, Hidden Origins, and I'm watching Ancient Aliens.
Oh, that's
I'm watching
so awesome.
I love watching things like that because it's interesting. I mean,
well, okay, so I like that you said that because so everybody's different. Here's this unique recovery journey process, whatever you want to call it, right? For you, like you're really learning and being pulled and drawn to Gaia and getting centered and grounded, and through your music and your when you do the bowl, it's like amazing. And in fact, I love it when we connect and you're just like, okay, let's get centered first. Let's get centered first.
Do it. Hey, we can do that for the people today. It's right here.
Yeah, that to me is just so rad. And you know what? We'll have you go ahead and play it as we're getting ready to leave, so everybody can just really soak up all the good yummy juices. But for me, I had to learn, right? Those scientific underlying reasons why whatever happened to me. Like I had to learn it. And then with my very first class, I was hooked. Right. And so fast forward 5.5 years of studying the psychology of process, behavioral, and chemical addictions. Because I'll tell you, I mean, when I look at my spirituality and I look at, a lot of my life purpose, right? I look at my connection with humanity, being an empathic being, and as well as, my morals, my ethics, and of course my belief in my higher power, which is my own personal relationship. And I look at that and I was able to learn from a place that afforded me the ability to then see what was working well for me, why, being able to marry or connect the dots to the evidence-based practices. It afforded me that ability to effectively rewrite them in the form of a coaching model, which then prompted me to study coaching as an effective psychological practice before opening a coaching practice. And it, so all of that to say that for most of us, it is not about the chemical substance. And once we remove that layer, there's a whole onion worth of thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, beliefs, dreams, desires, and whatnot that's all rattling around in our head that are giving us this fear of failure. It's giving us this failure to launch. It's really keeping us stuck in this future trip in place of anxiety. And all the while we're lugging around all this stuff. And you hear about trauma informed care, and that is great, right? That's great for, when that form of treatment.
What exactly is that?
Well, that's when it's, specific, it's more clinical in nature, right? So you work with a
Okay.
trauma therapist, and it's, informed about, what we're working on to heal and close up. So that might be your EMDRs, things like that, very specific therapies. For me, in my practice, when we need that level of care, I work with therapists, I bring them in,
Sure.
so that we
Mhm.
work in tandem, because what I want people to understand is that they can put that down. They don't have to carry it. We need to be living
And you
today,
mean as far as like the labels or
not just the carrying it around, right? Because
just
what
all of the trauma?
we carry it around with us, right? We
Yes.
carry all of
Yes.
those
Yes.
failures, those
Yes.
traumatic events. We carry, we carry it around, and we go through our days filling our sack full of stuff. You get cut off on the way to work. What do? You put it in your sack and you talk about it all day, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're always
Yeah.
filling this sack full of
Woe is me.
attachments,
Woe
right?
is me.
Negative attachments. And then we attach it
Yeah.
to any new relationship. We attach it to any new experience.
Yes.
We're always doing this comparison thing. And instead of
Yes.
looking at things with a very clear, genuine, we'll call it virgin eyes, right? Like, each experience
Yeah.
is new, and we need to see it that way.
So big. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm a hype woman in the back. I'm like, you're back
We
up
need to put
dancing.
it on the shelf, or we need to throw it away. Like, there's no do-overs. I can't do
Toss it
10
out.
years
Toss
ago
it
over,
out.
15 years ago over, 20 years ago over. I can't do
Yeah.
that. So in our balancing of our life, we want to be looking at our spirituality. What does that mean? What do I need to stay connected with, so that I
Yes.
can hear what my body, my physical being, is telling me?
Yes.
Which goes
Yes.
to, finding the way that affords you that ability to get centered and grounded in any moment. Any moment.
Every moment counts, and every choice counts. And
Mhm.
yes, we get to listen to our bodies. That's a big one. I mean, if most of us did that, how many things would we do different? That's still that's every day. We get to listen to our emotions, because our emotions are telling us what you speak on. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's been a very big part of my of the work that I've been doing on myself.
Mhm.
And that is, when I get into an emotional situation and my response is blown out of proportion to the situation, then
Mhm.
I say, hey, yes, this is a chance for me to heal something, because there's no reason that I should be responding. And here's the thing, it's easy. It's really only you must really be of a sound mind, body, and spirit to go through this process, because your ego takes over any other time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, like, more specifically to what you're talking about, just so that I can hopefully, help people see what you're talking about, right? Like, when I get to that elevated place, right, and I'm getting
Of
deeper in,
emotion.
and I'm and I want, this is what I want everybody to be able to do. You've got to be able to give that emotion an adjective, an effective adjective, right? We don't want to just
I'll put it on an inanimate. I literally will say, emotion, what are you doing here?
right. You can absolutely, you can do
And
that.
then set it down.
I'm mad. Is it mad? What is it, right? Like, irritated, agitated, annoyed, flustered. I'm
Yes.
a big proponent of being able to use our words, because we walk through life
I love
saying,
that.
hi, how are you? I'm fine. And we're supposed to guess what that person means based on the inflection in their voice.
Okay.
And then,
Yes.
so when
Clarity.
you say I'm fine, you're leaving it subject to interpretation. So,
Yeah.
I'm well today, right? Like,
Yes.
I'm well. I might not be happy, go lucky, smiley, whatever, but I'm well today, right?
That's why I always try to ask people, how do you feel? Because it's harder to just
Right.
kind of
So when
skate
we
that
get
over.
in that knee jerk place, right?
Yeah.
Knee-jerk reactivity. We've got to pull in that pause, which you were talking about. I stop, I put it on an inanimate object, I ask it what it's doing. That is utilizing the art of pause.
Yes.
Just very actively described. And
Yes.
everybody has to pause in a way that fits for them.
That's right.
Whatever that looks and feels for you, but we have to condition ourselves to pause because we don't want to react. I heard you use the word respond. You said, I shouldn't be responding. If we're responding, that's a good thing. We want to be responsive. We don't want to be reactive. And that's when your 2-year-old says, mom, 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 and you just knee-jerk go, what?
Yeah.
Right? Or
get off of me. Leave me alone.
Maybe it's not your 2-year-old, but if you have teenagers or whatever it is, but that unthought through thing that comes out of your mouth or ends up in your shopping cart or ends up in your mouth, right?
Yeah. I need to use it more for the eating one.
Yeah.
But you know what though? The reason I said respond even is because, and that's just only because of the conscious work to do, because I recognize that I get to heal because I've come to a place where I have enough dignity to not, to not react. But that doesn't mean that I'm dealing with it still if I'm not conscious. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've gotten to a place in my life where I'm like, okay, I've grown up, I've graduated. I don't go back. If I don't get a text quick enough, I'm not back. I'm not texting back right away. However, if I'm still suffering in turmoil, in silence, there's still something deeper. Yeah, there's still something deeper to heal there. What I have found, Trisha, and this is so really amazing, and it really is super amazing. What I found is that when I have actively asked myself, emotion, what are you doing here? And I set it down and I say, open my heart. Open my heart. It's a Dr. Greg Braden. I learned it from him. And I say, open my heart, open my heart. And I literally, because when you're feeling those feelings of anxiety, of anger, all those low feelings, you can feel your heart closing. You feel an actual physical feeling, or when you're feeling anxious, if you're nervous about speaking, whatever, I say, you put your hand right here and you say, I am safe. You are safe. And you're talking to your heart. It gives you that physiological point where you're touching your heart. Your body is all pulling its attention to where your hand is. And then you say, open your heart so that your heart can release whatever it's trying to calcify or something whenever you start feeling those.
It's just expansive.
Yeah. So when I've done that, I kid you not, before the end of the day, without fail, there has been an opportunity that has come to my attention because I'm open, I'm in a receiving mode. I am present. I have taken control and said, body, you're not in control. Mind is in control. I have opened my heart, and without fail, by the end of the day, I have had an opportunity to heal something. Like I've had ex-boyfriends call out of nowhere or communicate with me out of nowhere, and we had a clearing conversation, and I'm like, wow, I just really healed something that really was what needed to be healed. I have a different perspective on this situation, and I'm not even upset about that situation at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's why this is so important. So everybody that's listening, look, this is all part of your spirituality, your spiritual walk in a life transformation journey. So it's not always, because here's the mentality I've seen, and mind you, I've been at this for, a good 8 years. And, personally myself, I've been in, some form of a recovery journey for a really long time. I'm not going to date myself, but it's more than 25.
Yeah. I've been in and out too. So I know how you feel.
Right. But so that spirituality, yes, if finding a a sanctuary works for you, please, by all means, find that. But bring that spirituality to a broader perspective and utilize it to connect with you, the being, who,
Yes.
for all intent and purposes, is your controlling force, is your higher power, right?
Absolutely.
Even with a higher power, you are your higher power, because you get to choose how you experience all of your experiences. You get to choose how you hear every word, see every color,
Yes. Yes.
and every, you know, leaf falling off of a tree. Like, you get to choose how connected you want to be in your world, in your environment. And
Yeah.
so if we think about that, this goes directly into our spiritual health, our emotional health, our physical health, right? Which then also will feed our social health if
Yes.
we're really tuned in with our social category, right? Like, this is social. This is
Yes.
also professional.
Yes.
So, and this is also very developmental. So
Absolutely.
we're hitting at least 4 categories, right? 4
Yes.
core categories. And I bet you we're hitting more than that, but I just want people to kind of be able to visualize in bite-sized pieces without overwhelming them, right? Like, getting engaged in this. Everybody
engaged is the point.
Ask questions. We will answer them as soon as we, you know, get off of here. We'll go and check in comments. And I will make sure that you have both mine and Michelle's contact information. But you know, if we are paying attention to our social needs, and for everybody that looks different. There are some women that really have to have that group of their, you know, their women's, like their you know, their best friends, and they do everything together.
Yeah.
They you know, every week they get together and they go shopping, or, you know, get their nails done or whatever. There are some people that really rely on that daily interaction with their adult friends.
Yes.
And then there are other people that don't, but have, you know, varying social needs. And I think it's super important. And I want everybody to hear this. Do not compare your social with other people's social. If you feel like your social health is lacking, look at your social health.
That's
Define
beautiful.
it for yourself. Like, when I give out the life balance wheel, I give everybody examples, but then I tell them to disregard everything that's in that example, and I give them a blank one and say, you define what goes into these, right? Because if you go based on a book or what somebody else wrote or what somebody else did, you're trying to fit your life into somebody else's success instead of taking their success and editing and deleting it into your life.
And here you go. What about this? Give them 5, because a week from now, those are all going to shift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, you got to be, that's why the only person that your number one job on this earth is to know who you are in every moment possible. And that's every moment to moment. That's going to be, funny. You know?
Yeah. Well, I say it all the time. Like, I will, you know, I'll be live and I'll be talking on the internet. I'll be, you know, dropping all my peeps, like these private, you know, messages and all of that. And then, you know, a whole week will go by and I'll be like, you've been quiet. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I needed to be in reflection. I needed to be in reflection. I have to, you know, I have to become introspective as well. And so as I'm doing that, what's really happening is I'm cultivating and I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm
contemplating
and I'm shifting, because I never want to be, you know, I'm content with my life. So don't get it wrong.
Of course.
I'm content with my life, but I don't ever want to be content with being still.
Yeah, that's you. But you want to be content being still when you need to be still.
Yes.
And when you want to be content, what I'm hearing you say, I should say, because it's not me to say what you're saying, but what I'm hearing you say is that you want to be so fully engaged in understanding of your needs and who you are, where you're at, so that you can be the best leader that you can be. Because if you're listening to yourself, we can pretty much we can almost guarantee you're going to listen to other people.
Right.
But if you're not listening to yourself, you're probably not listening very well to other people.
Well, because your tapes are running. Your tapes
Yeah.
are running. And they're running and they get louder and louder and louder and louder to where you can't hear yourself or others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I say tapes, I'm talking about those mental reels that look like my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my opinions, my
I
beliefs
thought you were going to say 8 tracks.
aren't valid. They
Look
don't
like
hold any value. I'm dismissible.
Yeah.
Right? I'm disposable.
Yes. Yes. Data. Old data.
I've never succeeded at anything. You know,
Old programs.
and this is why we use retail therapy.
Yes.
This is why we,
You have those codependent relationships.
And this is why, yes, and this is why we have those codependency relationships, is why we continue to repeat dysfunctional relationships.
Yeah.
Because we just keep waiting for that one person that validates us as enough. And instead of validating ourselves as enough and attracting somebody that just looks at you and says, oh my gosh, you're such an intriguing, amazing, emotional being. I just want to witness you live your life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Isn't that all we want?
That is all we want. And that's all we want to do. We don't want to control. It's so funny. It's just, it's never enough. It's just anything in excess is just too much, even when it comes to relationships. And dare I say, especially, because it's like, we never want all of someone. You know what I mean? When someone gives us everything that then we don't want it anymore.
Dude, that would be like so boring. If everybody was so much alike that they had everything in common, well, you wouldn't need to even have a conversation.
And we've seen those, and good for them. If that's what makes you happy, then good for you. But I dare say that most of the people that I've been blessed to experience life with, that have been people that have struggled with addiction alongside me, have been some of the most amazing, artistically gifted, beautiful souls, tortured yet, but beautiful, but so smart. So the smartest people I know, like literally a lot of my personality, my curiosity and wonder came from people that were addicted to, including my father, so I mean, it's not, so I mean, so that's the passion I think you and I can probably can relate to, is that, there's a law of diminishing returns that happens at a certain point when our development just does not flourish, when we are running those tapes. When we're playing old tapes, we're not creating new ones. We can't do both.
You can't take in new information if there's a tape running.
Exactly.
You have to be able to hit record, right?
Thank you.
You have to be quiet, hit record, and receive so that you can hear a new message. So you can take the highlighted key points that are speaking to you, right? There may be half the people listening may be completely lost with, hey, wait a minute, I thought we were talking about recovery. and I thought we were talking about being patient with our journey. And I thought we were, and we are. If you're listening, right? Like if we're speaking your language, what we're saying is take it piece by piece. But for you to be able to have patience and to give yourself personal grace.
Yes.
You have to start with hearing yourself.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I got excited because you're so right. It's bigger than the addiction. Not to, you know what I mean? That's what we're saying. We're saying it's about you. It's about you.
You're tired. Sit, stop.
Yeah.
Quiet your mind and start listening. And then, yes, if you have a physiological, need for, say, detoxification, for, say, some inpatient. Like if your environment is that toxic, your whole household's using, there's no way everybody's going to like empty the refrigerator and get rid of all the alcohol. Nobody's gonna, jump on board with my desire to be a clean and sober being. Then let's get you somewhere, right? Then just reach out. Let's get you somewhere. Let's do that so that we can then start working on determining what that exit plan is going to look like, because that is important. That needs to be part of the starting process.
Yeah.
We can look at what that exit plan is going to look like, because if a 30-day stay, which is about what you get these days in in the traditional residential treatment,
right,
that's going to not be long enough. And I guarantee you it's not long enough to cultivate the strength you need to re-enter an environment that isn't planning to change their habits, right?
Right.
Then
how long, Trisha, how long does it, not me to cut you off, but this is a good question, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the average, the American, the American dream people out there who've never had to deal with this situation, they may not understand. And I really didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm so sorry. But because what you hit on is so important, especially for what you do and what you can do to help people, because it is important. People think that you just get to get up one day. And I remember when I was like in my 20s, me and my friend thought we were going to be Thelma and Louise and hold our heads up high and walk into the recovery center. And we thought we were going to get enrolled, and we made that decision. And they said, "Where's your insurance?" And we go, "What?" So
right.
So you speak into that, and you saying like you get about 30 days. Is that when you have insurance, or even without it? Okay.
Yeah. So if you're self-pay, right? If you're self-pay, that it looks completely different.
Yeah.
Most people can't afford to self-pay for say the Passages Malibu, or I don't know. I don't know why that one even popped in my head, but one of those traditional 30-day treatment programs where you go, you
sands,
you do, you live there. Right? Like, and this is, so these are the ones you see on the TV, those kinds of things. And they're great. All of them have a purpose. And as does a medical detox, right?
Sure.
I'm generally a proponent of finding a good hospital to do a medical detox in.
Okay.
But, there's also partial hospitalization, but that's only good if you're going home to a good environment.
Yeah.
Right?
See?
And so you go, okay, so I'm going to go to treatment. You need to go to treatment. You're not functioning and you need to go to treatment. So you go, you use your insurance. Insurance is going to get you maybe 21 to 28 days, right? Because they're going to give you that detoxification period for stabilization. And then once you're stabilized, they're going to want you to move down to intensive outpatient.
Okay.
And so for some people this works well, and some people this doesn't, right? Because it's usually 3 nights a week for 3 hours at a time, and you meet with your counselor or your therapist. Very effective. I've worked in all levels of care, by the way, so I'm not speaking I haven't worked in or participated in. And so that intensive outpatient, that can feel like a very big social need, and learning how to speak with people about your recovery,
about it,
that understand you. And then from there, you usually get released, and that's usually about I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. And so you'll get longer coverage for an intensive outpatient. But when that intensive outpatient is over, or even during that intensive outpatient, and this is really important that I piggyback on this, because in intensive outpatient, you're interacting with other people in a similar period of recovery as you are. Everybody's journey looks different, but you're interacting at a clinical level, which means you only have access to those providers during the scheduled designated periods of time. So this is generally when I will start working with somebody. Is transitioning out of a residential, going into an intensive outpatient. This is the best part for me. Is that treatment transition to life period, because I only work with people in their life. I'm also accessible every day. right? Like I
Right.
have specific office hours where I can be text messaged, I can be called, you can schedule a same day appointment, you can, blah, 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 right? Like we have our
Right.
coaching corner
That's
online.
great support.
We have different recorded items that we listen to. And then we have very specific activities. So this is where we're developing those life skills
Yeah.
to actually function inside of our environment, regardless of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether we end up ultimately leaving that environment. So I have a lot of people, they want to give it a try. They try, and it's still a very toxic space. And they decide, you know what, nobody's coming. I'm leading by a good example of how I want my life to look, feel, be.
Yeah.
This is my life. It gets to look, feel, be how I want it to. And nobody in my little sphere of influence wants to come along. So I'm ready to transition into my own space so that my growth isn't stifled any longer, right? Like
that's right.
I'm done giving my peace, my power, right, away to something outside of myself, right? Because that's all part of the addiction. We're giving away all of our power to something outside of ourselves.
Especially as the empath.
Yes. Yes, I know. So, so we want to be able to find that right space. So if we don't need detox, we don't have a physiological addiction, we're a stay-at-home mom, we're highly functioning, or we're a business professional, an entrepreneur, and we're highly functioning, but we have these habits that are holding us hostage.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that.
Mental tapes that are presenting us with barriers, or we have just tons of distractions that we just can't seem to quiet, right? This is where we need, a functional recovery lifestyle type program. And it's not always me. Believe me, there are people that come and I'm like, oh, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. Like I hear what you're wanting and it sounds more like this. And that's why another reason why I really love having collaborative, relationships with other people. So anyway, enough about me. Anybody that wants to know can, look up on that. But so this is the way it looks. And now if you're private pay, right? Like some of these things that I'm talking about, that intensive outpatient, that, residential stay, like that might be outside of your wheelhouse. So we can find sober living environments that are, usually 90 days to a year, and you're just living inside the home. Cause like for me, man, I didn't do sober living, but I went to a very unique type of a program. I needed to learn how to open the refrigerator door. I was 43 years old, and every day as long as I could remember, again, 30-year relationship with alcohol. I had to learn how to open the refrigerator and not reach for a beer. There was phantom beering it. No, that's right. I gave that up. And it was just that, it was that muscle memory.
It's like losing a friend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When it's losing a part of your person, it's muscle memory, and losing a part of your personality is what you feel, how you feel. And I think that, when it comes to environment, I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because that's so much of the addiction loop is like, okay, now normal people aren't awake at 4 or 5 at 3, to hang out at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You know what I mean? Unless you're the new normal, like me, who now wakes up at 4 and 5 in the morning.
Total difference. Am I going down at 4 or am I getting up at 4?
Yeah, right? Total difference.
So much more animated than I ever was in my life, right? I would have never put myself on a screen.
Yeah. Oh no, you hide. Especially when you're, using, like, in whatever way, shape, fashion, or form. That's the saddest part, because there's so many great people with I'm so blessed for all of the relationships that I got to participate in, and all that I learned from so many people. And if I could get them out of hiding, it would be great. But we have to go first, like you said.
Yes. And speaking of having to go, because I don't want to just abruptly have to cut off. Absolutely, Michelle, I'm going to absolutely have you back. We have so much more to talk about, so much more to share. So, offline, we'll talk about, what's coming up for, June or even later this month. because I definitely want to continue this. We have, the rest of this month, we are going to be talking about, and hopefully, you'll still be here with us live. We're going to be visiting other things like life planning and some of that physical health when it comes to some of those medical decisions that we need to be making, especially when we're trying to make this. So, but then also in the going forward, right? Like, creating the most organic relationship with our body. That means, I don't need a bunch of man-made chemicals in my system, right? How can I do something more natural with regards to that? Right. So, we have a couple of really awesome guests coming in there. And then towards the very end of the month, we're going to be doing some deep conversation on codependency. Yeah. So that's what the rest of this month looks like. And wow, I just hope everybody could hear in there, your passion around, really getting to know yourself, hearing yourself, knowing your needs, connecting with your spiritual needs, right? That spirituality piece, so that your emotional health can start to heal, grow, change, shift, morph into what you want it to be, right? And never stop learning, keep developing.
That's it.
Develop that mental capacity so that you can see when you're intrigued or interested or inspired by something that you say, wow, I need a piece of that. And you go get it, right? And always be patient. It's a persistent pursuit in learning, right? You mentioned that unlearning, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
So you were talking about how do we know, or where do we go, and how long does it take with treatment, right? I'm going to give this last tidbit. Anybody that goes into recovery thinking that they don't need to be on their toes for the first 2 years, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to scare y'all, but post-acute withdrawal is a real thing. So if it's chemical in nature, if your addiction is chemical in nature, so we're talking, alcohol, marijuana, opiates, pain pills, whatever, right? Heroin, meth, you're going to have post-acute withdrawal guaranteed for 2 years. What that will look like for you, what level of severity, how often or not often you have that, is also going to be something that you can work on through your health. Dietary practices, right?
Okay.
So many addicts become sugar addicts.
Yeah.
So many addicts become sugar addicts.
Easy to do.
So we want to, so we want to say, I'm on a 2-year journey, a minimum of a 2-year self-exploration journey that I'm going to do from a place of genuineness, authenticity, clear mind, focus solely on me. Yes, we're going to have to focus on the other people in our life. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have all these other things. Yeah. And so that's where we have to do it. Treatment itself may only be, a month or whatever you need, right? Like,
right. You're talking about that acute,
find somebody that can tell you what level of care to start at.
Okay.
But like my programs are, 3, 6, 9 months in length.
Right. Supportive.
On what we decide, depending on what we decide. And sometimes they don't end there. And sometimes they, sometimes they're shorter even. Sometimes we're done in 9 weeks. It depends upon where you are in your doneness and readiness, openness, and willingness to change the dialogue, to change this manuscript, to write a new chapter, whatever it is. Anyway.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with people, because they need to know. Let me ask you one more question.
Yes.
2 questions. One question is, do people need to be in where you are to work with you?
No.
Okay, that's huge. I want to make sure we all know that.
Yeah. I'm an international master addictions coach. I work a wide variety of severity. So, no.
So you're worldwide.
Across the US. Yeah.
We're worldwide, baby. Okay, great. Well, that opens up a whole new, a whole new world with new horizons to pursue. Okay, so the second question I have is, I have an astrology class tomorrow. Can I tell people about that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then put the information in the comments after.
Okay, I certainly will. I certainly will. It's absolutely no cost. I would, if you can come for an hour, it would be great. It's just an hour at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, so that's 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I have the Aquarium Priestess coming on to talk about astrology, and we're demystifying astrology, but it's called You Are a Star. I'll put the link below, but it's to invite people to the conversation of learning more about our world. We just stop doing that when we get to a certain age and we watch real whatever housewives of wherever and all the reality shows and wonder why we feel disconnected and imposter syndrome. It's because we don't even go outside anymore. The stars are actually real. When you go outside at night and you look in the sky, you see them. So we just want to demystify that. And this is ancient energy that we were born into. We should know more about it, and it'll help with imposter syndrome and those types of things. So I just wanted to invite you and everyone else to come tomorrow.
Absolutely. I will definitely be looking at my calendar to see.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you. So are you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me and with all of us and just having this space for us.
Absolutely. No, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Michelle, for coming. This has been amazing, and I can't wait to have you back.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you take care and God bless you.